Battle Royale games are coming along at a fast rate of knots right now. We already know that PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is the most played game on Steam. In fact, as of me recording this, there are currently 1.9 million concurrent players and a whopping 2.6 million peak players in the last 24 hours. To put this into context, 1.9 million players, that's more than the rest of the entire top 10 on Steam combined, and the top 10 includes classic legendary games like Dota 2 and CSGO. Now that is quite astonishing. And then we've got H1Z1, which actually isn't doing that well in comparison. In fact, the Battlegrounds test servers have more players than H1Z1 does. Again, as of me recording this video. Now, other games like Fortnite Battle Royale, which is free to play, have taken off massively recently thanks to offering something a bit different from the normal Battle Royale experience. Being able to build and create cover completely changes the dynamic of the game, and in a game like Fortnite it tends to be a bit faster and a bit more arcadey. Elsewhere, do you guys remember a game called Warface by Crytek? Well, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't, but that's also very recently been given the Battle Royale treatment. Even, get this, Call of Duty and Activision are getting in on the action, sort of. Call of Duty Online is a Chinese version of COD that's made by Activision Shanghai and Raven Software, but it's distributed by Tencent Holdings. Now, this is an 18-player official COD titled Battle Royale game with a COD style, and it's only available in China, so don't expect it to be heading to the US or Europe anytime soon, but perhaps this is a sign of things to come from big AAA developers. Battle Royale games are hot at the moment, they're selling well, they're making money, and I've said for some time now, over a year ago in fact, that a AAA developer should really get on board with the Battle Royale genre and make a game, and it could be fantastic if it's done right. Epic Games, you could say, have already done this because they're a AAA developer, but what if DICE or another EA studio were to make a Battle Royale game on the Frostbite engine? How good could that be? What sort of game would come out of it? How would it look? And what benefits would the Frostbite engine bring? I know for a fact that there are a lot of developers at DICE who play PUBG, and I'm sure it must have crossed their mind at some time, what if we could make our own Battle Royale game and do it on the Frostbite engine? Well, I've got some ideas and thoughts about that. First up, what's one thing that current BR games, even the super popular PUBG, struggle with? Well, the netcode and the optimization. When a game starts and 100 players are alive in PUBG, it's really laggy. Battlefield, however, has regular 64-player battles and the game doesn't crawl to a 5 tick rate. Now, I know what you're thinking, the Frostbite engine has had its lag problems in the past, but you have to admit that it's very solid these days with huge improvements over the past years. In fact, Battlefield 1 has one of the best netcodes in the first-person shooter multiplayer business. I honestly don't think it would be much of a stretch to get 100 players at 60Hz tick rate. Of course, I don't know the ins and outs and all the technicalities of the engine, but even at 64 players you could have a good BR experience. I mean, at the moment on PC we have 64 player servers running at a constant 60Hz tick rate, and the hit reg is very good. Now, some other problems with BR games, although Fortnite does this pretty well to be fair, is performance. A lot of current games such as PUBG are made on third-party engines like Epic's Unreal Engine. Perhaps they're using imported assets, or they don't know how to correctly optimize the engine yet because of a lack of experience, but then you've got the creators of the engine, Epic, who come along with Fortnite, and the performance of Fortnite BR is fantastic even with 100 players. Sure, you could put some of that down to perhaps the smaller map and lighter art style, it's not as realistic, but still you can't ignore the fact that if you're 100% comfortable with the engine, you can spend more time on making your game and less time on trying to fix it and optimize it. The Frostbite engine does netcode and performance really, really well. I mean, look at a game like Battlefront 2. It's probably the best looking game out at the moment, and it runs amazingly on consoles and on lower spec PCs. And then of course we've got the destruction that the Frostbite engine brings. One of the things that I think a realistic battle royale game like PUBG is missing out on right now. Fortnite has been a bit of a revelation in that respect, although that does things a little bit differently with cover creation and entire map elements that can be destroyed. But if you've got a modern shooter like PUBG, but imagine that warehouses could have walls blown out of them, trees, walls, fences could all be destroyed, you could make a hole in a wall and shoot through it, craters could be made in fields where grenades have exploded, trees could set on fire. I think there's a lot of scope for something built from the ground up with destruction in mind. Even the lighting could play a part, dynamic lights around the map that could be shot out to create darker areas or dark buildings for cover. Say you head into a large factory and you've got another player chasing you down, instead of engaging you could shoot out the lights and hide until maybe they've gone away. In terms of movement, well, the Frostbite engine has already got very good movement mechanics. Yes, you get stuck on stuff sometimes still, but we've got a vaulting system in Battlefield, including a system that can pull up you to higher surfaces and hoist yourself over walls, much like the one that's being added to PUBG right now. The more obvious things that Frostbite has going for it is the incredible sound engine and graphics, and we already know how visually stunning Frostbite games are. Vehicle physics and controls as well, they're already on point in Battlefield, so when you break down all the components, I don't think it would actually take a whole lot to convert what you currently have with Battlefield into a very good Battle Royale game. To me, it feels like a lot of the elements are already there and in place. You've got excellent gunplay in, let's say, Battlefield 4. I think if you're doing a setting for a Battle Royale game, the BF4 modern day setting would work perfectly, and the gunplay in BF4 is incredible. And we know for a fact that the Frostbite engine can do massive levels. Look at Sinai Desert and Albion from Battlefield 1. And you could argue as well that Battlefield has already kind of done a take on the Battle Royale game mode with the scavenger mode in the Aftermath DLC that appeared in November of 2012 for Battlefield 3. That was a game mode where you were running around and collecting guns of various different qualities, and that was actually a fan favourite and really fun. I mean, one of the coolest parts about PUBG is the weapon attachments and finding them, picking them up, customising the way that your guns handle. Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, Hardline, they've already got those systems with foregrips and suppressors, barrel attachments, stocks, different weapon sights and bayonets. It's already in the game, so you would assume it would be quite easy to implement that system into a new BR game. I think a game like this would also need a full ranking system, a bit like what CSGO has. Ideally you would be put in games with players of similar ranks where possible, and like every BR game right now, it needs to have leaderboards and stats to keep track of their progress. I think ranks in BR games are very important because it gives you something to play for even after you've been going for 400 or 500 hours. And then of course we could have cosmetics. I know this is a bit of a sore subject right at the moment, well, more specifically loot crates, but in a game like I've suggested, cosmetic only would be absolutely fine. Much like how Battlegrounds does it, you earn credits after each game and you can use those to buy cosmetic crates, but perhaps there are certain events like they did for Gamescom where you need to buy a key to open them up. I'm personally fine with that if you want cosmetics only, but the key is that you're under no obligation to do so and they in no way affect gameplay. Ideally for me, I think there would just be things that you could buy for a specific amount of money, so instead of the loot crates, if you wanted to buy a certain outfit for your character or helmet, you could literally just buy that item instead of hoping to get it in a loot crate or battle pack. Now, a reason I think that cosmetics could work really well in a Battlefield Battle Royale game is that you wouldn't necessarily need to pay attention to character silhouettes anymore, so you could have kind of wacky and interesting cosmetics that wouldn't affect the gameplay that much. In Battlefield games, you can quickly identify the silhouettes of the players that you're going up against. Medic, recon, assault, support, whatever it is, you can tell by looking at the character model what it is very quickly. Now, I will be talking about class gameplay in BR in just a second, but crazy cosmetics could work because the class silhouettes wouldn't be as important. Now, moving on to that class idea that I've had. So, in solo BR, the game would play just as normally as you would expect, and I would say the same for in duos as well. However, let's say that Battlefield made a BR game and you had the option to play in a squad, which is a fundamental part of the Battlefield franchise. So that would be either 4 or 5 players that you could pick from and a set amount of classes. Let's say for argument's sake that you had the classic BF classes, so Assault, Medic, Support and Recon. Assault, for instance, in a BR game could carry more grenades, whereas Medic would be able to revive a teammate faster if they've been knocked out faster than the other classes. Support would be able to gain or carry more ammo from pickups, and maybe Recon would be the only class to utilise the longest scopes in the game. Some very basic rudimentary ideas, but I honestly find the idea of having a class-based Battle Royale game quite interesting, and I think Battlefield would be a good fit for it. Picking up certain weapons, gadgets and tools and handing them out to the correct teammate based on their class would certainly change up the dynamic a little bit. Even grenades could vary depending on the class, so in the world you would pick up grenades as normal, but they would vary based on what class you were. Assault could get frags, for instance, but maybe Medic would get smoke, Support a flash grenade, and then Recon an incendiary. You wouldn't restrict any weapons per class or anything like that, but simply give each class a certain boost in areas where they're going to be using the weapons that they'll excel at and be designed for their specific class. Just an interesting idea anyway. And what about vehicles as well? Vehicles are a pivotal part of the Battlefield franchise. You could have a rare helicopter spawn or even a rare tank spawn, for example, creating those only in Battlefield moments in a Battle Royale game, just to throw out some crazy ideas. The question is though, would something like this be an entirely separate game, or could a BR mode be added to a game like Battlefield 1? Well, I think either could work. If you look at the size of some of the BF1 maps, like I mentioned, Sinai for example, sure there's a lot of unused space, but the actual surface area is quite large. Probably not large enough for a Battle Royale map, but the scope is there to make a really large playable area suitable for quite a few built up areas. One of the problems that I have now with PUBG after playing Fortnite for so long is just how boring some PUBG games can be. In Fortnite, because the map is smaller, you always get action, and even if you die you can get back into a game so fast that you never feel like you're waiting around. In Battlegrounds you can often see no action for 20 minutes, and in some games you feel like you wasted your time a bit more. You tend to get that quick burst of action at the start, and if you survive there's that mid-game lull where nothing really happens until you get to the final circle and then you either die or win. If there was a Battlefield BR game for instance, I'd like to see it have plenty of action, so with that in mind, perhaps a smaller map with only 64 players could work quite well. In conclusion, Frostbite has all of the elements to make a great BR game, and I for one would love to see it. DICE please, I'm asking you, please make this game happen. Just thinking about it and the incredible gameplay opportunities that a game like this could offer really gets me going, and I think it would be a very popular product if it was done correctly. I doubt it's going to happen anytime soon, but I guess that we can hope. I think it would be quite interesting to see a smaller studio like DICE LA for example work on an independent BR game mode for the Battlefield franchise, but of course I think they're focusing on incursions and future DLC at the moment. I definitely think that studio could do it very well though. Now, just for a bit of fun and to see exactly how many people would want to see this kind of game made by DICE, I've created a petition for this very idea. It's very simple. If you go to bit.ly/BattlefieldBR, you'll find a little page there with a link to this video and a petition. If you want to see a game like this, sign the petition. Let's see how many Battlefield fans and Battle Royale fans we can get on board with this. So there we have it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Would a Battlefield Battle Royale game be exciting for you, or is there just one too many cropping up now? For me personally, I think it would be wicked and incredibly fun to play something like that on the Frostbite engine, and you know for a fact that it would be very well polished and the gunplay would be fantastic. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, a thumbs down. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.